So, family, I got the receipts on this so-called Paul Birdsong, who's allegedly supposed to be the head of the chairman of the Black Panther Party out there in Philadelphia. And them receipts came back, dirty as hell. This dude is clearly working with one of them intelligence agencies and in the pockets of them alphabet people, and on behalf of real FBA society, we sending him a cease and desist. We don't like him using the namesake and the likeness of our FBA ancestors, Huey P and them, what they did with the Black Panther Party and use it to push, immigrant rights, this, that, and the other, none of which benefits us in real FBA society. This dude, Paul Birdsong, ain't nothing but a failed rapper, and you got several FBA brothers that's involved with the Black Panther Party, such as Fred Hampton's son. I seen a post on Facebook. He's speaking out in opposition against this cat. And we got a brother who's in a leadership role with the Black Panther Party by the name of Mike Payne. I'm going to play his video a little later in the broadcast. He says, that we ain't getting out here on behalf of, no damn, immigrant tethers, who, when we as FBAs get cut down in the streets unjustly by race soldiers, Ku Klux Klan members with a badge, they don't be out there, towing the line, and advocating for us, so we ain't advocating for them whatsoever, you know what I mean? And, FBAs, we just tapped out on helping everybody, and neglecting our own selves, by doing so. We looked out for people to our own detriment, most of the time. And them days is gone. We focused on FBA lineage based first and foremost and getting our needs and priorities met, and we ain't being pulled in 100 damn different directions, advocating for people and being a shield for them, when they give a damn about our people, let's be real. Most of these Latinos and tethers in general, even if they, even if they melanated, even these melanated tethers, the Latinos, they give a damn about FBA society, and Latinos, they got a real hatred towards, black people, they got a lot of anti-black racism coming from the Latinos, so we ain't getting out here advocating for these foreign fleeing tethers, immigration, don't benefit us in foundational Black American society whatsoever, and we FBA brothers and sisters, we tapped out on helping everybody, and while we helping everybody else, we neglecting our own needs. So damn that, them days is over with. So I got the audio and the video of this failed rapper, Puerto Rican tether, who's, a paid agent by the name of Paul Birdsong. And I got a few other videos we gonna play of another, scam Africanism Opps, who I exposed by the name of Moses Kane. These cats are trying to get, FBAs to, get out in the streets and get pushback and resistance to ICE on behalf of the immigrants. And damn that, because they just want us to get out of there. So, get out there in them streets too, where though we caper for the immigrants, but then we become the target of ICE, you know what I mean? Because, they'll see us and be like, damn, there go them black folks, we got to get them, you know what I mean? So we doing the right thing by sitting out, immigration, hurt, harms, and injures, FBAs, we ain't got to advocate for all of these people, you know what I mean? We only advocating when things, affect FBA society, we laser focused on our lineage and getting our justice claim in the form of cash reparations. A lot of these damn tethers, they come over here, get in political office, and, they speak that we don't need no reparations, this, that, or the other. You guys is lazy, Akadas, this, that, and the other. These people got to hold their own nuts and do what they got to do, you know what I mean? And advocate for themselves. We ain't got to be out there fighting people's battles, because what I think they really want to do is get FBAs in the street so, we can absorb their blows for them, be their shield, to where though we getting brutalized out there. Damn that, FBAs, this ain't our fight. Stand down, only get involved when something directly affects, hurts, harms, and injures FBA society. We got to prioritize our needs first and foremost from here on out. And, we're going to walk through and talk about it. I got a few different videos we're going to get into, family. So let's get moving and shaking. Fair use.
You know what I'm saying? So you should probably do some research. My name is Paul Birdsong. You can Google me. I done fought the National Guard. I done fought the Ku Klux Klan. I done fought the sheriff, SWAT. And I'm still here because I haven't lost yet. You know why? People power, black power. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, you a Latino, Puerto Rican tether. Stop trying to pull on some black power. We popularized as foundational Black Americans, black power. You Latinos be the biggest anti-black, racist, some of the biggest black anti-black racists there are on the planet. A lot of Latinos, Puerto Ricans too, they don't even like black people. Let's keep this thing all the way real. But let's continue.
Saying ICE ICE runs into communities and brutalizes black women and children every single day.
They're not foundational black Americans. So he's just trying to muddy the waters to get us to put the capes on for these folks, to where though he's trying to make us think that FBAs are getting brutalized. And that's not happening. That's not happening, family. There was only one case I seen where an FBA brother, his last name was Porter, you know, he got unalived by an off-duty ICE agent, you know what I mean? And I'm looking into that, but we ain't moving and shaking on, and I already talked about that issue too. It's on my channel. Y'all can go back and look at it. But we ain't moving and shaking for, immigrants' rights and needs. You know what I mean? We only moving and shaking on something when it regards our interests as foundational black Americans. You know what I mean? And in that case, we'll move and shake on something, on on the basis, that we feel is, uh, going to affect FBA society, but we ain't moving and shaking for all these foreign causes. You know what I mean? If something, comes up against our people, then we going to move and shake on it. You know what I mean? But as for anything else, we ain't moving and shaking for these damn immigrants, getting out here being a human shield for them to absorb all of their blows while they get to sit there, twiddling their thumbs, damn that,
You know? And the Black Panther Party is not a nationalist group, we're an internationalist group. We deal with people, any type of oppressed people, anywhere, we fight for them. You know what I'm saying?
See, he's about the rights and needs of everybody, family. This immigration thing ain't a black fight, a foundational black American fight. You know what I mean? FBA, stand down. Don't let these people get you in the streets. They, trying to lead you astray. You know what I mean? These damn other, immigrants, even if they melanated, black immigrants, they not, largely they not for foundational black Americans. These people come over here, come up with all of these derogatory names to call our people Akata, this, that, and the other, say that we don't deserve no reparations, get on reparations panels, and try to, run reparations into the ground, muddy the waters, such as that guy that, was the governor out there in Maryland, you know what I mean? He ain't nothing but a tether. I forget his name, you know what I mean? But we laser focused on FBA society. Immigration to the U.S. hurts, harms, and injures foundational black Americans. It takes resources and aids that could be going to our justice claim in the form of cash reparations. So keep that in mind, family. Don't let these people, get you off your square to where though you thinking that FBAs is being hurt, harmed, and injured. There was only one case we seen, with an FBA brother, he was unalived by an off-duty ICE agent. We looking more into that, and we only advocating for our people or when our interests, they try to oppose our interests, anybody, you know what I mean? But we trying to get our reparations and our justice claim. These people don't give a damn about, us, and as far as law enforcement, that ain't nothing new to, FBA society, sadly and unfortunately, law enforcement, we've been a target of law enforcement, and we've overcome that. Our people want overcome so damn much in this country, slavery, this, that, and the other. So we're used to, fighting injustice and oppression. These other people just riding around crying and disgruntled, but because we've removed the bottle out of their mouth, and walked away on them, like a parent, might walk away on a child when, that child wants his way and the parent don't give them their way and they holding on to the parent's leg. We removed the bottle, made these cats stand on their own 2 feet and hold their own nuts. And that's why everybody's crying, frustrated, and disgruntled because they ain't used to, doing for themselves, but FBAs from here on out, we worried about ourselves. We sitting it out. Immigration, directly hurts, harms, and injures FBAs, and we ain't being the advocate for these people. What they want us to be is a shield so we can get hurt. They want to get FBA brothers and sisters hurt, so don't go out there, family.
So if the person is oppressed, which, these immigrants are, then we stand up for them.
Immigrants is not oppressed. I got to give you pushback and resistance to that. Immigration coming to the U.S., that was a choice on behalf of the immigrant tethers that came here. You know what I mean? They could have stood and fought in their homeland to make that better, the same way our foundational black American ancestors made the United States better, because we the only damn non-immigrants to the USA, the foundational black Americans. We can't be deported, laws were formed around us, we ain't something that, can be taken out of here. You know what I mean? Everything that was made good in America is basically that way because of us foundational black Americans, so the immigrants, the tethers, when they came over here, that was a choice. They ain't being oppressed. They can always make the choice to go back home and work to make their homelands better.
You know, you want to talk about immigrants, let's talk about the white immigrants that came to this land and took this land. The ones that are sicking ice on everybody right now.
Homie, everybody's an immigrant to the United States of America except the foundational Black Americans. We the only non-immigrants, you know. We built America from the ground up. There would be no USA if it wasn't for FBA. So you really ain't saying nothing. You're a Puerto Rican tether, you know what I mean, who's trying to get, foundational Black American brothers and sisters out there in the street to, be the shield to absorb the blows for the tether class. And damn that. I can't let that happen. I won't let that happen.
You know, I think you brothers and sisters should do some reading, some educating of yourselves. You know, I'm not going to insult you back. That's beneath me, you know. But if ever you're hungry, if ever you need some clothes, if ever you got to go to court and you need somebody to advocate for you, if ever the police get to whooping your ass and you need somebody to help you, I got you. All power to the people.
This dude is police, family. He working with one of them intelligence agencies. He bought and paid for. But let's move right along. This brother is Mike Payne. This is the brother I was telling you about, who's in a leadership role with the Black Panther Party. And this brother, says that, FBAs, we shouldn't get out there. You know what I mean? He don't say it exactly how I'm saying it, but he basically saying what I'm saying. We shouldn't get out there and advocate for these people, none of which advocate for us, and when we did, get out there and advocate for our brother George Floyd when the immigrant tether class came out there. They was trying to dissipate the energy, when we were standing on business for our brother George Floyd getting taken out by that race soldier. They was out there looting, breaking into stores. They seen it as an opportunity. They wasn't out there, on behalf of our brother. They was out there to loot, for their own personal selfish needs. But, let's get into our brother Mike Payne, who is in a leadership role with the Black Panther Party. And he's basically saying what we on the FBA grassroots, Black grassroots, been saying, that, we ain't advocating for these people. This ain't an FBA fight, a foundational Black American fight. These people got to hold their own nuts. But let's get into it. Fair use.
General Mike Payne, national leader of the original Black Panther Party here. We have received many emails from people asking what is our official stance on the ICE situation. I need you all to listen and understand what I'm telling you. We, the original Black Panther Party, in good conscience cannot risk life and limb of our people for groups.
Key word, our people. We can't risk life and limb for our people. But let's continue. And that's foundational Black American brothers and sisters.
Groups of people who have not risked life and limb for us.
Facts, family. In the days of old, we've advocated for these people to our own detriment, to where though we pushed our own needs and interests to the side, to advocate, for immigration, this, that, and the other. The reason that, they even over here in the USA is because our FBA ancestors fought to make it so. We jeopardized, stuff that we had going on to look out for other people to our own detriment. When it's not reciprocal, foundational Black American brothers and sisters get cut down in the streets left and right by these race soldiers, Ku Klux Klan members with a badge. And when we look around, only people out there that standing toe to toe with us and side by side with us is real FBA brothers and sisters. Damn these, immigrants. They got to hold their own nuts and do for themselves. They want us out there so we can absorb the blows and become human shields, because FBAs, you go out there, all of the focus that them ICE agents was putting on them damn, immigrants, that it'll be, all of that'll be targeted at you. Don't go out there. Don't listen to these, foolish, tethers and scam Africans on the internet that's trying to get you off your square, to where though you feel that FBA brothers and sisters is being largely targeted by ICE. We ain't being targeted by ICE. ICE can't do nothing with us. We built the United States of America. You ain't going nowhere. You solidify.
Just because we have a common enemy, that does not equate to us having a common problem. If this was so, now listen to me. If we had a common problem and enemy, where were the immigrants, or even the Black immigrants as a whole, when Breonna Taylor, Tyree Nichols, Trayvon Martin, Roland Hill, Ahmaud Arbery, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, where were you at?
Well said, brother. Nowhere to be found. It's only real FBA brothers and sisters out there, standing on truth to power and lineage business. These damn, foreign fleeing tethers ain't nowhere in sight because they cowards. That's why they over here in the first place, because they fled their own homelands instead of, fighting to knock down injustice and oppression over there, they had to come up over here under us real FBA brothers and sisters, because the United States of America would have never been better if it wasn't for, our FBA ancestors. The white supremacists for sure as hell wasn't trying to let our people out of slavery and bondage. If they had it their way, it would have stayed the same, with Jim Crow, this, that, and the other. We stood on business, the same way they got to stand on business in their homeland. Because when we need help, ain't nobody there but FBAs. We all we got.
When our people are murdered in the streets, slaughtered in cold blood by an agency that now hunts you. But now that injustice has touched your door, we have something in common. The Black agenda must come first. We are still working on in-house unification. We cannot afford to divide our ranks to help individuals who have not been reciprocatory. Black citizens, we are not the target. Sure, like anything else, a few Black citizens get stopped, hassled, and ID'd. That's been happening to us for 400 plus years.
That's what I'm saying. Race soldiers unfortunately targeting us in FBA society. That ain't nothing new. People just throwing a hissy fit because the Tether class ain't used to being targeted. They want us out there because we know how to handle systematic racism, white supremacy. But it's not our fight, FBA. Stand down. We're non-immigrants. We built America. We the only non-immigrants in America. So this don't involve us. Don't be out there, because you'll become the target.
The difference now is we aren't who they're looking for. We don't mean this in a harsh way to any community that migrated here and are targets of ICE. But legal or illegally, this has been our experience.
Yes, sir.
Since our shackled feet touched the Virginia soil. Welcome to America.
Salute to our FBA brother, Mike Payne, for standing on business and calling that, BS out with that Latino so-called Tether Panther, who ain't nothing more than a, paid agent in the pockets of the alphabet people. But let's continue, family. This is the danger of, letting everybody into, when we get something going in real FBA society, when we get these movements started moving and shaking, historically, most of them, movements have been taken down by outsiders, tethers, you don't invite everybody into your organizations and movements, you know what I mean, where you standing on, real Black business, and advocating for your people. We don't need everybody involved. All we need is FBAs, because when we let these foreign tethers in there, that's how it gets taken down, because they easily infiltrated by them alphabet people, because they, for one, they're not our people, so they don't see themselves as us, and they'll sell us up Schitt's Creek without a paddle at the drop of a dime. But let's get into it, family. This is why you don't invite everybody to the cookout. I want to show y'all an example of why we don't invite everybody to the cookout. Fair use.
The Black Panthers did have non-Black members that were in their ranks. Most notably was this man, Richard Aoki. He was Japanese, and
this damn dude was working with an intelligence agency. They let him in the Black Panthers. And this is in large part why the Black Panthers was infiltrated and taken down. We should have never had, these outside, tethers involved in any, FBA movement. We should have kept it all FBA, and I'm convinced if it was all FBA, and it would have still been around. You know what I mean? The tether class is what, takes movements down,
He joined the Black Panthers very early, literally when they first started. He rose to the ranks of the Black Panthers relatively quick. He became a field marshal, and he was the only Asian American to have a formal leadership position in the Black Panthers. He ended up becoming an educator in California and also a school counselor. If you thought this was going to be a feel-good story, it's not. When he died in 2009, someone did a Freedom of Information Act request to see what the FBI had on him when he was a Black Panther. Come to find out, he was working for the FBI for 15 years. He was a confidential informant. He had been telling the FBI everything that
See, family, you don't invite everybody everybody to the cookout. Some things is kept, among our own ranks, people of our lineage and real FBA society. You know what I mean? You don't invite everybody to the cookout because people that aren't, of the lineage, most of the time they can be, co-opted, to sell us up Shit's Creek without a paddle because for one, they don't view themselves. They're not our people, so they don't see themselves the same as us. So, it's easier for them to sell us out and justify doing so in their own minds.
He learned about the Black Panthers. It even says, informant is a stable young man showing traits of maturity and poise. He handles himself as an intelligent, trustworthy individual. In 1977, according to this document, he reached out to the FBI and said that he didn't want to seek any more information for them. This is about 5 years before the Black Panthers ceased operations, so they're already going downhill at this point.
See, family, you don't invite everybody to the cookout. Some things, stay amongst real FBA society, in the lineage. You don't got to bring all of these, outsiders, into the fold. But here go that other scam African, who's trying to get FBA brothers and sisters out there in the street, to stand up to ICE, for the immigrant tether class. And that's a bunch of nonsense. But I'm getting tether vibes off of this dude, but I can't say for certain, but I know for sure as hell he a damn scam African, saying that we need to unite as foundational Black Americans with Latinos, Indians, this, that, and the third. No, the hell we don't need to unite with all of these, outside, groups of people, These people don't give a damn about us. In fact, some of these people don't even like our people, you know what I mean? So it ain't no need to get involved with all of these other people. FBAs, sit it out. This ain't your fight. Don't get involved, with fighting ICE for these damn immigrants. They wouldn't reciprocate that and be out there fighting for none of your needs. In fact, they ain't even for reparations. They speak down upon our people. But let's get into it, family. Fair use.
Fight. You do realize that for those of you saying that ICE isn't our fight, you do realize that African Americans are getting detained too, right? You do realize.
No, we not, family. He's muddy in the waters. Anybody getting targeted by ICE, they're tethers. They're immigrants. You know what I mean? They ain't foundational Black Americans.
Realize that African Americans are being dropped on top of their heads too, right? You do realize that African Americans are being thrown in the back of U-Haul vans and kidnapped too, right? You do realize that there are lawsuits going on right now where African Americans are suing because of what ICE is.
See, they need us, family, but don't get involved because we're the only ones that know how to fight systematic racism, white supremacy, and injustice. The other people ain't used to it because if they could have done it, they would have fought it in their homeland to make their homeland better. Instead, they fled up over here. Don't, co-sign or endorse anything that these, tethers got going on, these immigrants, because they don't give a damn about us in real FBA society. We got to be laser focused on our needs and interests as foundational Black American brothers and sisters because they don't give a damn about our interests. They come over here to the USA to take, not, to get on cold with us. We the only people that thought we had some solidarity based on Blackness, and these people give a damn about us.
Doing, right? A lot of y'all just don't make no sense because what you want to say is I'm pussy, but how it comes out your mouth is we got to stay calm. We have to keep peacefully protesting. We got to boycott. We got to do this, that, and the third that don't end up solving nothing. You spent year on top of year on top of year talking to these people. You spend year after year after year begging for reparations. You spend year after.
No, the hell, we ain't begging for reparations. We demanding reparation. And he ain't nothing but a scam African. Most of these scam Africans I see, they ain't even for reparations. And if they are for reparations, they for some global reparations of all Black people. And that'll never work. You know what I mean? It must be lineage based. You know what I mean? So he just trying to muddy the waters and get us foundational Black Americans off our square to where as though we can get out here, and advocate and for these immigrants, and become the targets of ICE. Damn that. We ain't absorbing blows for people that wouldn't reciprocate it. You know what I mean? But let's continue.
Year after year, trying to cozy up next to him, trying to hug it out with him. You tried to do everything in the book other than what you supposed to do. Ain't but one way to deal with a bully, and you keep running from it. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be scared. Fear should be there. Some fear is healthy, but that fear
Ain't nobody for sure as hell scared, especially not in FBA society. We used to fight racism and injustice. You know what I mean? We just ain't doing it for on behalf of some, immigrant agenda. Like I said, the Tethers, they don't give a damn about what's going on in FBA society. A lot of them come here and work, in opposition to our needs and interests, tell us we don't need no reparations, this, that, and the third, so we ain't advocating for people that give a damn about us that come here to take for our people. Immigration takes resources and food out of the mouth that could be going to real FBA brothers and sisters.
Should not overwhelm you. That fear should not overwhelm your ability to.
Fear is what these immigrants got. That's why they fled up over here, and tried to cozy up under FBAs because they couldn't get nothing moving and shaking in their homeland because of their cowardice nature. Because they should have fought injustice and oppression on the home front to where though they didn't have to come over here. It was a choice. And they fled.
Thrive. You gonna have to get your hands dirty. Now you could say, oh, well, we could just stay in the house and stay calm. What happens when they go door to door? Which they already started doing. What happens when...
And even if they're going door to door, this is not happening to foundational Black Americans. They might have some intel to where 50 or 60, Tethers is living up in a house and going there, so don't let these people, what they want to do, these scam Africans and these damn, alphabet people, such as this Moses Kane and the other one, Paul Birdsong, is they want to get FBA brothers and sisters out there in the streets to where though we getting brutalized by these ICE officers, to take the focus off of these damn foreign fleeing Tethers. And that ain't going to happen, you know what I mean? Because this ain't our fight.
When they start pulling you out your homes, which they already started doing, what happens when they start pulling your children?
No, they not, family. He trying to muddy the waters, and put out a false narrative to get, us out there in them streets to advocate for immigrants.
Ripping your children from the mothers, ripping the children from the fathers, emasculating the father in front of his children, sexually assaulting the mother in front of her children, which is already happening. How long you gonna run? You say, well, what's the plan? What's the plan? What's the plan? First of all, if you asking me that in my comments, I'm not going to answer you.
The plan is for FBAs, to sit on our ass and, watch this thing from the sidelines because we for sure as hell ain't getting involved. It don't regard none of our needs and interests in real FBA society. We laser focused on getting our reparations, our justice claim, and us collectively as a lineage getting our leg up. Immigration don't serve us. It hurt, harms, and injures FBA society. It takes resources and aid, brings all, funny crimes to our community. We looking around, all of these crimes being committed and it's coming from the Tether class, but let's continue.
Is this not social media? Second of all, the plan is what I've always told you a billion times already. Go dig through my page. Go dig through it. Do your due diligence. A lot of you are destined to be unalived anyway. A lot of you won't even make it just off of pure stupidity, just off the basics that you choose not to do in your everyday life. Things that you choose not to do that you're supposed to do. You don't even have the discipline to make it. You can't even accept accountability. How you gonna make it? You can't even look in the mirror at the flaws that you have within yourself. How you gonna make it? You still talking about, gun control, gun control, gun control. Do you?
He trying to conflate multiple issues. Real FBA brothers and sisters, like I said, we worried about and laser focused on FBA society and us getting our justice claim and leg up. You could miss me what you talk about, family. You just trying, you scam African rather. You just trying to muddy the waters and get FBAs, out there in the streets, to where though we advocating, and we ain't, doing that and risking our people being hurt, at the hands of ICE. You know what I mean? Because we're the only people, that stood up for, people everywhere. We just got tired of doing it because we see that energy ain't reciprocal.
Do you not realize, dumb motherfucker, that there is no possible way to take illegal guns off the streets? What they gonna do is they gonna take all the legal ones off the streets, and then you gonna see a rise and then brutalizing you even more because now you have zero way of defending yourself and all the criminals now have more guns. You can close all the legal gun stores. Guess where all those legal guns are gonna go?
An FBA family. In closing, I know you might want to get involved, because FBAs, we got a spirit of, resistance inside of us embedded in the DNA. So we don't like seeing injustice and oppression or perceived injustice and oppression. So you might want to go out there, and get involved with this ICE thing, but don't do it because it's not our fight. Even if these people are melanated, these damn tethers, most of them, work in opposition to our people, and don't give a damn about what's going on in FBA society. The Latino tethers or, the melanated black tethers. They come over here to take from our people. They don't want to get on code. We tried the whole unity thing, solidarity thing, based on, melanin and, perceived blackness. It just don't work. We laser focus now, on what's going on in FBA society. So, even though you might want to get involved because that's embedded in the spirit of us FBAs, to fight injustice and oppression on every front, this ain't our fight. These people for sure as hell don't give a damn about our people, and we got to remain on code and look out for FBA needs first and foremost. And, looking out for immigrants, and getting out here being a human shield, what they want us to be, and absorb all of the blows and impact, that ain't, nothing to do with our agenda, and our needs. We got to be about FBA first and foremost. So don't let them get you off your square and get you to thinking that FBAs are being harmed, and sadly and unfortunately, FBAs, we used to being targeted by law enforcement, race soldiers, Ku Klux Klan members with a badge, and if the, time comes where we got to move, we'll move on it, but we ain't moving on it for no damn, immigrant tethers that don't give a damn about us. Just my thoughts on the matter, but FBAs remain on code and don't let these FBI, CIA agents get you off your square to where though they got you wanting to run out there in the street, and get pushback and resistance to ICE. Peace.